Welcome back to Where is the Money? So the money is not with our savings account. Clearly, it is no surprise that millions of Americans are finding it difficult to save in this economy. So even during the pandemic, it was a statistic going around that saying a lot of Americans didn't have at least $1,000 in saving. Let me pull up that current stat as of 2025. No emergency savings. It says nearly 1 in 4 Americans, roughly 24%, report having no emergency savings at all. Other reports have found this number to be as high as 1 in 3 in previous years. Insufficient emergency savings. It says only 46% of Americans have enough emergency savings to cover at least 3 months worth of expenses. Many Americans struggle to afford an unexpected significant expense. Around 40% couldn't cover a $1,000 emergency expense using only cash. About 37% of people couldn't afford an emergency expense over $400. So you read these numbers and statistics, it's no surprise to the average American that's living this every single day. And as inflation continues to go through the roof and tariff prices are coming down the pipeline, these numbers will get worse in 26. So needless to say, the reason why you can never save any money in this economy is because everybody, at least most people, are operating in survival mode with their finances, which is a product of not having enough money.
Money alleviates poverty. It is not that complicated, and yet we have spent decades as a society building these very convoluted systems like means-tested programs, conditional assistance, bureaucratic hurdles, when the research increasingly shows that just giving people money works. And I want to talk about why this is and why it actually just has to do with the idea of the American dream and capitalism. So when you think about money, think about it in the terms of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, like a pyramid. At the bottom, money solves survival problems. It pays for food, shelter, healthcare, safety, etc. If you do not even have enough money to cover these basics, no amount of financial literacy or budgeting or anything will matter. You cannot budget your way out of not having enough money. It is not a skills problem, it is a resource problem. And so the evidence of direct cash transfers, i.e. giving someone just money every month, no strings attached, is remarkably consistent. When you give people that money, they use it to stabilize their lives, by and large. They pay off debt, cover medical bills, fix their car. It reduces their stress, okay? They typically, because they're at such a low level, they need the money to survive, they're not blowing it on frivolous things. They are solving the immediate crises that poverty creates. But here's what's really important. Beyond that, once those basic needs are covered, people actually can start making longer term decisions. They can stop thinking day to day and they can start thinking week to week or month to month. They can make decisions about their education, their career development, and saving. But you cannot do any of that if you are in constant crisis trying to keep the lights on. This is basic economics, okay? Money is a tool that solves those really basic immediate money problems. Now, once you get beyond that survival level, then it becomes more of a debate of what money can actually solve as you're moving up kind of that ladder. However, in America, we have moralized poverty so much, we believe in the meritocracy so much, that we would rather build these unbelievably complicated systems to prove that people deserve help rather than just acknowledge that poverty is a lack of money and the solution is money. And the research is clear about all this. And I think it's time that people just start addressing this. And by the way, when you create these complicated systems, it just leads to mass amounts of waste instead of just directly giving people the money.
Now, she made a very important distinction there that a lot of people miss. They know subconsciously, but sometimes it gotta be just spelled out bluntly. You cannot save your way out of not making enough money, which is a powerful line. There are people right now making under $50,000 a year in this economy trying to save every penny, nickel, cent, dollars, save on Starbucks, dollar menu, dollar store, doing everything they can to save to preserve what they have. But a lot of the time, they don't have a saving problem. They have an income problem. Like myself, I save what I can when I can, but my energy is focused on getting more income and being responsible with that income to get more financially stable. But a lot of people got the reverse going on, where they're only focused on saving, not on making more money. What about the impact on your mental health and physical health when you're dealing with being in survival mode with your finances? It is dangerous to your health across the board.
Nobody talks about the impact of financial trauma on your health. You can be in chronic survival mode due to years of financial hardship. Maybe you have a lot of debt that you haven't paid off yet. Maybe you're still check to check after years of trying to move past that. Or maybe you just invested in a business. It could be yourself or it could be someone else, and it didn't pan out. And as a result of that, your body is starting to experience exhaustion, fatigue, brain fog, irritability, digestive issues. And what I found is that a lot of therapists and doctors and naturopaths and whatever practitioner you may have seen don't ever get to the root cause, which is the money.
Now, obviously, we do what we can. We don't choose to be in survival mode in most situations. But if that's you and that is your situation, you have to do what you can to keep your mental health together and your physical health intact, because it can get bad. So now that we established some of the impacts on your mental and physical health, what about that first 1K?
Having at least $1,000 in your savings account regulates your nervous system and raises frequency. Here's why that first $1,000 matters. It immediately puts you in security energy. When you're constantly in survival mode, it shows. It affects how you carry yourself, your magnetism, and even how others perceive you. If your savings account is empty, it's more than just numbers. It impacts you physically, mentally, and spiritually. Survival mode takes over. You're not thinking about style, presentation, or attracting abundance. You're just trying to get through the day. But when you reach that first 1,000 in your savings, something shifts. You get a breath of relief, a sense of security. Even saving just $25 each time you get paid, or anytime extra money comes your way, it starts to add up. When you finally hit that $1,000 mark, you'll feel it deep down. That first 1,000 doesn't just change your finances. It shifts your energy, confidence, and your outlook on life. Of course, the goal is always more in your savings, more freedom, but the energy of that first 1,000 is transformative. It sets a foundation for wealth, abundance, and magnetism. I read a book called Energy of Money, and it perfectly explains that money has a vibration. It's an energy. When you feel stuck, insecure, or in survival mode, your energy's low. You're not attracting, you're chasing. But when you step into financial security, even with that first 1,000, your energy literally shifts. You become a magnet for opportunities, abundance, and success. So take a moment today, check your savings, make a plan, and start with just $25 at a time. That first 1,000 could be the very thing that changes the way the universe responds to you. And that can change your life.
That's the goal in 26, to at least get 1K in savings to at least take the edge off survival mode. You cannot make strategic financial decisions with the resources you do have if all you can do is focus on the next bill. All you're doing is moving and surviving. You can't think of your next steps, which will further perpetuate the cycle. So what do you make of this? Do you agree that not having enough money leads to survival mode, which leads to a negative impact on your physical, mental, and financial health, to the point that it's difficult to get out of that cycle and logically look for an opportunity to elevate if you're stuck in that survival mode? And 1K, at least, will get some of the edge off to be able to get us in the right mindset to at least look at this more objectively, so we can be strategic out here and not just spinning our wheels, paying bills, and stressing ourselves into an early grave. You tell me. Put your comments below. Let's talk about it. This is Where is the Money? Talk to you soon.